Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another thing where I talk about things today after a long work day at the retail pharmacy. And I feel like if anything has really undermined my faith that the world is getting to be a better place gradually through the help of the people above us, it is my work at a retail job. I don't know what it is. I just get back from these from these work days, and it's very difficult to have energy to do much of anything afterward. Just I feel like my back hurts. I feel like I'm 30 years older than I really am. And it's strange, because I used to work as a land surveyor for a little while, and I would do things like I would crawl into drainage pipes on my hands and knees with like giant mutant grasshoppers, and mostly they were crickets, giant mutant crickets, and like black widows and all kinds of horrible things. I mean, I found like bones from what might have been a pig in a sewer drain at one point. We found there was just weird stuff out there. Like when you do land survey, you go all over your local state and you look at just strange things because you're paid to map out like an entire area. And say you just go around and you're like, I think that maybe this might be a prostitution ring out here. Things like that. You never know what you never know what you're going to find. You oftentimes can't confirm what you found, but you develop very odd suspicions and wonder why exactly these things are here. So anyway though, but that kind of job never really took it out of me quite like working at retail did. And the thing that slays me is working as a land surveyor, paid better, was less stressful, and just, what can I say? It's one of those things. I personally, I know why retail work is like that. But anyway, that said, I don't really have any other news, I suppose. We're working on a short that's going to come out. Well, I do have some news. Alan Hour is going to be out on Sunday, and that's because Alan wanted to bring some people in to help work with it. We're going to do a kind of a clever skit. Actually, I rather like it. And then also, Petter Up is working on a short that I pitched him. I talked about government, and I was not very happy with government, so I came up with a spoof on government. And so I sent Petter Up some lines for that. He's done half the lines in that. It is about congressmen, and they are very actively helping the nation. And no, it's mostly just goofy. It's more monkey stuff because I prefer the monkeys to the humans. I mean, not necessarily, but it's all going to tie into stuff. I've been talking to Petter Up about plans to kind of go into other things. Like we're gonna wind down and finish up the pony thing. And then we're thinking about doing some other stuff, and we might do a series, and I mentioned we might do some stuff. So we'll probably take the personalities that we sort of created for the Mentally Advanced series, and we'll use them for our own characters. Because I really like the Rainbow Dash personality, which we're renaming Peyton for the Let's Plays, and of course the Pinkie Pie personality. That's Peyton. Ray is the Rainbow Dash personality. No. And all that, and then I plan to go out and live with Kenza at some point, and of course then we'll have the Joker more there with us, so we have some opportunities to create some fun stuff and do some things, and so I talked to him, and we might tie this little congressional sketch into there. We'll do some world building and kind of gradually work our way into sort of our own more original series, and then that way we won't be relying so much on trademarks that we don't own, because if I've come to any conclusion at this point, using other people's trademarks, even in parody, where you think that you are in a case of fair use and you're not doing anything wrong, it's kind of scary, because there aren't really any mechanisms there to protect you. So while we enjoy the pony stuff, and Rainbow Dash is fun, and I like to edit the stories, like I said, we're planning on doing some other things, and we'll make it fun, and I think people will like it. It'll be fun. So so we'll have a short about the government of the world that we're going to be creating. It's basically going to be Monkey World. It's going to be a lot like from I mean, not exactly. I mean, we haven't really talked a whole lot about Monkey World, but it's there'll be elements of that and stuff like that. So, anyway, though, Children of the Sandler, beyond news, let's get back to Children of the Sandler. Where we left off, we had just been gifted with the Sword of the Devil, and the rest of us realized that it was the Sword of the Devil, but the GM did not know. Sandler had no idea. So, Kalen was given the Sword of the Devil, and we decided to take back all the junk that we could load up in the ship. We salvaged all these rare things that we could find, and we flew back to Sandler Island, because that was our home base. We had no homes. We didn't really know where to go. It was just one of those things that was like, where do we sell this stuff to? I bet Sandler wants more of it. So we flew all the way back to Sandler Island, and we managed to sell a bunch of stuff to Sandler. And it cost us, we got about $1 million gold out of it. So that means that we paid off half of the airship, which was very pleasing. We were happy to have done that. So while we were there, though, we found out that someone had been attempting to murder the pinball wizards and Sandler. And we were actually kind of gung-ho about this. We thought that Sandler and everyone else deserved this, but Sandler informed us. He goes, oh yeah, Sandler the Fifth is concerned because there's someone trying to kill him and everyone else, and he wants you to investigate and figure out who it is who's doing it. He goes, I think it's someone who's in disguise. And so we said, oh, okay. So we went around trying to interview all the pinball wizards. He hired us to do this. He told us that he would actually pay off the rest of the airship if we caught this person. And so we thought, finally Sandler's listening to our gripes. We were mad about the airship. Like, nobody laughed about the airship. Nobody was impressed. It's like this worst airship. But that's the same thing. He always sold us the worst stuff, but would tout it as the best stuff, and he would charge the highest price. But we thought he was finally cutting us some slack, and he was giving us a quest to clear ourselves of the debts. Not so. This is Sandler, of course. So what we did, though, is we went around and we tried to talk to all of the different pinball wizards, and we were like, so, how's it going today? Like, have you noticed that anyone's acting strange? Have you noticed that anyone's acting strange? And every single one of them took it as an affront that we were interested in their personal business. And every time we would try to explain, like, no, we've been hired by Sandler to look into this incident of potential assassinations. Like, aren't you guys concerned about the assassinations? I mean, Sandler is concerned about the assassination. He said, you're all concerned. And they would get mad, and they'd be like, of course I'm afraid of being assassinated. But they talked to us like we were idiots, as they always did. And it became one of those, just another situation where we were like, mistreated, got kicked around. It was like we were like stray dogs walking into a nice establishment. They just threw us out as soon as we got in. And we were like, well, that was a blast. Good. I'm glad we agreed to help save these people. So finally, though, we got someone to tell us that they thought that the weaponsmith was acting strange. And we said, why? What's strange about the weaponsmith? And he goes, I don't know. I mean, he's always been distant, and I don't bother the guy because I'm nice and I'm not an idiot like you guys. But he just seemed a little off lately. And so we said, okay, that's the only lead we got. So we went to go talk to the weaponsmith. And one of the people, I think, told us, they're like, how you'll know it's not the weaponsmith? If you can prove that he doesn't have the super strength that our weaponsmith is renowned for. And we were like, oh, really? Okay. So we went to go talk to the weaponsmith, and we were like, and we tried to like cajole him into a fight, because at this point, I mean, not like like a friendly match, because it was something we showed up and we had Kalen start to brag about all of our exploits, and by that point, Kalen had a lot of dice in strength. It was one of those things like characters in this game were never supposed to get as strong as Kalen was. I think that he already had like a rank of 12 or something like that in sword use, things like that. And as I mentioned before, a rank of 10 was what the gods had. So Kalen could beat the gods in a duel. He was that good. So Kalen was, because of the way that I'd gamed the system and made a half bear man, half wolf man, Kalen was stronger than anything the book had ever intended player characters to be, and he had way more dice than the game intended. He had way more skill. I'm pretty sure I had unarmed combat and everything else, because I got to like rank 12, and I was like, I'm better than the gods. Like, maybe I'll just invest in other things like running, swimming. I think I started to raise my intelligence because I'd become the de facto party leader from the fact that I was the only one who could survive through battles. So I was really strong, and we kind of cajoled this guy into this fight. And so we got in a ring, which he'd had this ring, and he's like, I'm a world-class wrestler. And we were like, oh, okay, well, we're gonna wrestle with you. How about 3-on-1? Because we wanted to get the other guys involved, and there was 3 of us there at the time. I believe it was myself, Kat, and Rummy. And he goes, okay, yeah, I can take all 3 of you at once. And so, sure enough, as soon as we start, within the first round, he actually picks Kalen up. And you have to remember that Kalen was part bear, part wolf, and the wolves were already huge. So Kalen, I think I had written down, was like 700 pounds or something like that. He was like between 7 and 8 feet. And I had listed him as on the short side because I wanted him to be more stocky than really big. So he was like 700 pounds. So this guy, who is just a human, like average everyday human with no advantages or anything like that, just grabs Kalen, lifts him up, and then just picks him up and walks him out of the ring and then sets him down. And so the other 2 guys just give up. They just bow out of the ring. They don't even wrestle. They just get out of the ring. And they're like, well, that was a bust. And so we had to pay this guy. Like, I think we had to pay him 200 gold or something like that because we bet him money on top of everything else. And so then we were just mad. And so we went back to Sandler, and we were like, so we've made no progress, but someone accused the weaponsmith. And Sandler goes, oh, lucky for you, I thought of a way that you can identify the imposter. So we sighed, and we said, oh, it's good that you saved the day again, Sandler. What do you think we should do? And so he gives us these goggles, and what these goggles allow you to do is they allow you to see enchantments. And so we kind of go around, and we prowl around, we look at some other people, and we go and we find the weaponsmith guy. And he's wearing all his enchanted armor, and his enchanted swords, and everything else enchanted. So Sandler's making it really hard for us to just at a glance tell whether or not there's some kind of spell to make this guy look like someone he's not. So everyone else is not really covered, and we can tell that they're not using spells to hide who they are. So we approach the weaponsmith guy again. We're like, look, we're investigating, and we've looked at everyone else. Would you mind just taking off some of your enchanted equipment, armor, and everything else, so we can look at you and see that you are, in fact, not someone enchanted? And so he gets a little bit belligerent with us, and we just pull the groupthink card on him. We're like, look, everyone else has done this. You need to cooperate. You need to be a team player. So he grumbles, and then finally he strips everything down. And so then all that's remaining is apparently an arcane rune. Like an arcane engine is still operating. We can see this magic. And so we go to Sandler, and I tell him, I go, why would a person, once he's stripped down naked, why would he have the trace of an arcane rune on him, an arcane engineering rune? I mean, this is brand new technology, right? Like, why would you... I mean, would this be normal? Would you expect this from someone? And so Sandler, of course, just gives the full benefit of the doubt. I mean, everyone is convinced that there's a criminal, and that someone is the criminal. And this is the only guy who's likely to be a culprit. And he's got this magic thing. And Sandler just goes, well, you don't know. It might be a magical pacemaker. Like, you guys are idiots. You're wasting everyone's time. And we say, oh, you're right, Sandler. Hey, I was wondering, do you suppose that you could make me like a light? Like an arcane light? And you have to remember, way back, I can't remember if I brought this up or not, but way back, Egil tried to make a light as an arcane engineer. My very first character, Egil, who was an arcane engineer, tried to make a light rune. And Sandler didn't know that you could make light runes, and he told me no. He actually wouldn't allow me to make a light rune, because he goes, you can't just invent runes. Well, Sandler was able to make light runes, so Sandler goes, oh yeah, that would be easy. So Sandler just goes back, and he makes light runes, and he comes back, and he goes, so there you go, like you turn it on, and it makes light for you. It's a little orb. And we say, okay, Sandler, thanks. So we go back to the weapon guy, who's got the arcane engine field on, and so we just turn on the light room, and we just stick it on his chest. And what this does is, because Sandler didn't understand the way that arcane engineering rules work, when you put two arcane engines close together, they shorted each other out, and they both broke. And so Sandler, not even realizing that this was my plan the entire time, I just walked up and thwarted everything with a stupid broken rule that he caused, and boom, eliminated this guy's disguise. Sandler had to admit, he goes, you know what, I didn't think of that. So you outsmarted me, and here you go. Okay, it's a dark elf. It's an evil elf of some sort. It was like a black-skinned elf, which there wasn't in the book. They didn't have dark elves in the book. But whatever, Sandler had created this dark-skinned elf race, and apparently they were trying to kill the pinball wizard with good reason. I don't know why, but whatever it was a great reason. So he takes off. He makes a run for it, and he's faster than the whole party. Even Kalen, who's got a whole bunch of points in agility, intelligence. Like, I just dumped points into everything. I had more experience than I knew what to do with. Kalen couldn't catch the guy. So he takes off, he gets on a magical flying boat, and he's gone. And so we just kind of watch him go. And then a little bit later on, like in our far distant eyesight, a bunch of police boats from Sandler Island come and they knock him out of the sky and they take him down and they have him arrested. And so we go, hey, we did it. We beat this guy, right? We're totally, you're going to cancel all our debts. Everything's good. And Sandler goes, I said I would cancel your debts if you caught the criminal. So we didn't get our debts canceled because of a clause in the contract that Sandler didn't remind us of. Yes. So, after that, we didn't know what to do. We were still $1 million in debt to Sandler Island, and we had no more missions because we didn't want to go to the stupid temples anymore because they were dangerous and full of traps and zombies. So, we said, Sandler, is there anything else that the pinball wizards want us to do before we just go kill ourselves? Because at this point, we're pretty much just about to jump off the side of Sandler Island. And he goes, well, Sandler has recently concocted this brilliant idea, and I can't remember if it was Sandler or someone else, one of the other pinball wizards. They were all Sandler was the main thing. So someone had proposed that we acquire limit breaks as from Final Fantasy VII. And like I tried to mention before, a limit break, or I think I explained this before, a limit break in Final Fantasy VII was when your characters took enough of a beating, they would charge up for like a big powerful attack. You could do it one time, it would do a ton of damage, and then you had to take another beating before you could do the limit break again. It's kind of like an overdrive in Final Fantasy X if you've played that, but if you're not familiar with Final Fantasy games, just understand, it's a big bombastic attack that you do once as a result of charging up by taking damage. So Sandler proposed that we acquire limit breaks basically by defeating monsters and acquiring enough of their body parts to create like a magical stew of some sort that would give us these limit breaks. And so we actually got ingredients, and Sandler explained to us all the stuff that we had to do. And so we looked into it, and so we went down and we were like, Sandler, you can buy everything from this place, can't you? And he goes, yeah. And again, by this point, we were wise to Sandler's crap. And so we didn't tell him what we wanted to do, but we were just like, I don't know if I really want a limit break, but I think that I do want some kind of pet. I think that I would love to like ride my own griffin or something like that, because like there was like griffin tails. It was like, you need feathers from a griffin, and that was part of the stew. So because we had the list, and he had just written the list, but he didn't remember what was on them. So we just kind of looked at it, and so we were like, yeah, this is kind of dumb. This is kind of dumb, Sandler. We don't think we really want this. Oh, but what we really need is a pet. So we go down to the pet store, and we find out that they have every pet. They have every single animal on the list, and we're like, oh, you have griffins, great, a griffin would be great. Do you have imps? Oh, you got a whole pack of imps. That would be great. We need imp tails. And so we just kind of went over all this stuff. We went down the list, everything, all these ingredients, and we were like, we were wondering actually though, if instead of buying these animals, because we don't really want to take care of them, what if we just had the local doctor come and painlessly remove some of these creatures' parts, and then we could pay you a fraction of the price. So we tried to negotiate. This is where we went wrong, because instead of buying the pets and then just stone cold murdering them, which I think maybe we proposed, and then Sandler warned us he would take away all of our experience points if we did that. So I think that we tried to propose a humane and like renewable option. It was one of those things like, what if we use magic to pluck the feathers from the griffin, but then grow them back so the griffin doesn't feel inconvenienced, and we'll use magic to make the griffin happy while we do it, so the griffin is nice and comfortable. I mean, you've already got it in captivity. What else? How is this worse than what you're already doing? So we had a plan. It was a rather humane plan. And so, of course, the pet owner just freaks out. She demands that we leave. We have to go. We can't do anything. So we packed up all our stuff, and we got on the airship, and we looked at the list, and we said, so Sandler, where do we find these creatures then? Like, where do they normally live? And he goes, let me check my random encounter tables. So he gets out the random encounter tables, and he starts telling us where in the world we would have to travel to find each of the monsters. And believe it or not, we really did. The first place we went was the All Thing. Back to the All Thing, which we'd burned so many times. And it was one of those things that just for old time's sake, we kind of wanted to burn it. But Sandler warned us that there weren't enough points in our characters for us to get away with another citywide massacre. So we went down to the All Thing, and we said, all right, let's specifically hunt for imps, because we need imp tails. And so Sandler goes, you can't just hunt for imps. Like, you don't know where to find imps. And we go, really? And he goes, yeah, you have to wander around and wait for the random encounter table to generate enough imps to fill your quota for the imp tails. So it was exactly like a computer. It was exactly like a video game role-playing game, where we just told Sandler, we were like, go find some tall grass, walk in circles, and then Sandler would roll his random encounter die, and we would get, wolves, or we got pack animals once, like unsupervised pack animals that were just loose completely on their own. And I remember that one because we were like, go, like, check them out, like, what's in their packs? And like Sandler was rolling, and he was like, 3 gold, like, some bagels. And we were like, well, is there no one here? Like, they're just free roaming pack animals with packs full of like a little bit of gold and some like whole grain foods. And he goes, yep, that's what I rolled on the random encounter table. And you're like, okay. Great. So we did that for a while until we found enough imps to fulfill one of the quota, and then just declared stupid. We were like, done. Like, we came up with a plausible solution that would work with what options we had at our disposal. That didn't work. We are not level grinding. And this was because actually Kaylin had gotten so strong, and everyone else was starting to get a little unhappy because we were running into battles. And as soon as the imps showed up, I mean, everyone was pissed. Sandler was like, oh, this will be an easy encounter. These are just imps. And Children of the Sun is sort of more of a social-leaning game. You're not really supposed to fight crowds of people, because if you fight, like, 6 monsters at one time, and this is what Sandler was doing to us, you lose 5 dice. And most characters get, like, 2 dice. You know, you get to roll 2 dice, and the number you get, that's the number you get. The only character who could fight like 12 imps at a time was, I think at that time, Kalen, as long as he was reaching into his magic pool, which magic gave you extra dice. So, like, Kalen would have 5 dice in strength, and then I could reach in and take another, you know, like 5 dice out of magic, and so he would get ganged up on by like 8 imps and would still have plenty of dice to kill them. But everybody else would get ganged up on by like another 4 imps, and their characters would just be completely incapacitated. So the guys couldn't even fight the imps, and so they couldn't harvest experience in that way. Like, again, it was just Kalen was just a vacuum cleaner for experience. So we did that for a while. Everyone was mad. Kalen got even stronger, but didn't really need it. And then we were trapped in the all thing, and I can't remember what happened, but I left. That, like, I just didn't show up to one game. I can't remember why. I think I had some kind of obligation. Something happened, and Sandler destroyed our airship, our $2 million airship. He destroyed it. And, I can only fill in some rather vague details, so I guess I'll just do that now. But when I'd come back, apparently the party had ridden a giant peach that had flown itself all the way from the all thing to Crace, in the center of the map. So we'd gone all the way from the far northwest to the center of the map, riding a giant peach, and our airship was gone. and Galen had no idea how we got there. The guys didn't even bother to explain. They were just mad. They just gave me this look, and I was like, what happened? And they were like, we were attacked by a flying shark. And I was like, oh, most powerful creature in the game. Thanks to Sandler. So yes, his random encounter tables destroyed our airship, and that's as far as I understand. After that, somehow they wound up on a magical flying beach. So, yes, I suppose that'll be it for today. I will catch you guys later.
I may appear to be an unfamiliar face, but I'm sure you're all quite familiar with what I do here on this channel.